Welcome to John Martin Talks, where we battle ignorance and apathy daily. The growing ignorance of just how special this experiment we call the United States of America is, and the apathy that we can't or won't do anything and everything to save her. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we got a really great show for you today. I'm very excited to bring you the news about Donald Trump, and we'll get into the specifics of this. He is in the process of working with some other Republicans, including the great Newt Gingrich, to come up with a new, so to speak, contract with America in a sense of basically America first. We're going to talk about that because I think it is sorely needed. And then a great congressman from the great state of Florida, a highly decorated Green Beret. I think he's the first Green Beret that's ever actually served in Congress. He sets Ocasio-Cortez straight when it comes to saying that she, because of the January 6th attack, is basically now a combat veteran, and he sets her straight. We'll talk about that, and hopefully we'll have time to get into a little bit of funny stuff. Senator John Kennedy, and I'm not talking about the late JFK, I'm talking about John Kennedy from Louisiana. He's pretty comical. I really like that dude. And he put out a video for the NRA, and it is pretty funny, and we're going to talk about it. But he makes some great points as well. But before we go any further, we always have to bring up our sponsors, because without our sponsors and without you, our viewers, and us getting you together, we wouldn't have a show. So top of the list there is Big Daddy Unlimited, your Second Amendment headquarters. To get to any of our sponsors, look above the video, no matter when or where you're watching it, and you will see links to our sponsors. In this case, Big Daddy Unlimited, otherwise known as BDU, where you will get factory direct pricing. Yes, I said factory direct pricing on guns and ammunition delivered directly to your door, including over 100,000 related items for sale, like even Second Amendment swag, but tactical gear, survival gear, protective wear, anything remotely connected to the Second Amendment and guns and ammunition, you'll get at factory direct prices, delivered directly, as I say, to your door. And they are your Second Amendment headquarters because they defend your Second Amendment rights on a daily basis. We have patriotthreads.org. We're partnered up with them. We can get you a 20% discount if you go to their site and remember the initials of our show, JMT, John Martin Talks, for 20% off. They are a total fulfillment center. What that essentially means is they make sportswear. They produce high-quality, American-made sportswear with patriotic themes for your charity events, like if you want to have a motorcycle ride, club ride, or a golf tournament, or a fishing tournament, and you want to have shirts that represent what you're doing, they will help you design it, put it together, and make sure the appropriate funds go to the charity of your choice. Check them out, patriotthreads.org. Then Recoil TV, we're partnered with them, and they let us archive our show on a daily basis on their YouTube channel. Check them out. Of course, we have our own YouTube channel. You spell it all the way out, John Martin Talks, and we're live every day on there, Monday through Friday. Good morning, YouTubers. How are you? Glad to be with you. But our show is archived on Recoil TV on a daily basis. We're greatly honored to be affiliated with them because they produce high-quality, high-production videos that show all about the Second Amendment, like demonstrating the latest guns, ammunition, and tactical gear and those kind of things. You can't go wrong with Recoil TV. All right, let's get into the meat and potatoes, or maybe in the morning, the sausage and the grits or whatever of our show here. This is a Politico story, and I'm sure they didn't really like writing it, but they did a pretty good job with it. Trump is starting to put together his own contract with America, and he's teaming up with Newt Gingrich. Now, you may remember that back in the 90s, Newt Gingrich, I believe it was during the Clinton administration. Thank God it wasn't a Hillary Clinton administration. That's one of the things we should always, no matter whether you like Donald Trump or not, you should always be grateful that he kept Hillary Clinton out of the White House. I know I am. But Newt Gingrich put forward a contract with America, and it basically stated out in very clear specifics goals that if they took back the House of Representatives, and that, the Republicans were out of power in the House for over 40 years, and they were successful in taking it back. And a good chunk of that had to do with speaking plainly to the American people. Well, we know that Donald Trump is famous for doing that, but and I'll get into some of my thoughts on the details of this in just a moment, but having a very detailed plan that just basically puts America first. That's what I think we need to do, and that's what it seems like they're on track to do. So let's get into it. The 45th president has sat down with the former speaker as well as Mark Meadows, who was his former chief of staff and a congressman from North Carolina, and Lindsey Graham, in recent weeks, senator from South Carolina, to begin crafting a policy document, Contract with America versus the Contract on America is how I see it. Because right now we have a contract, because we literally have the Biden crime family in charge of the situation. And to me, we need a contract with America, not a contract on America. So I'm in full favor of moving forward on this. With an eye toward winning back the House and Senate in 2022 midterm elections, former President Donald Trump has begun crafting a policy agenda outlining a MAGA doctrine for the party. Sounds good to me. His template is the 1994 Contract with America that I was talking about a minute ago, a legislative agenda released ahead of the midterm elections in the middle of President Bill Clinton's first term. And as a cherry on top, he's teaming up with its main architect, Gingrich, to do it. Now, Newt Gingrich, man, I got to tell you, he is one of the sharpest people out there. And even though he's aging, he certainly has, unlike Biden, has got his wits about him. And one thing I love about Newt Gingrich, not only is he sharp, but he's right to the point. He doesn't just drone on and on. He doesn't speak in a lot of political platitudes. He gets right to the point about it, and I really appreciate that about him. Billy Bob here tells me maybe I should pick up that. If you hadn't met my psychic sidekick, man, some of us are sicker than others. I speak with the fishes. I'm the old salty dog, make fishing great again. But Billy Bob Bass here is my psychic sidekick. He kind of keeps me straight, coordinates the videos, straightens me out if I get lost, gets me back on track. He's got a Twitter handle, by the way. It's at Billy Bob Bass 1, and mine is at John Martin Talks. Now, I'm not too active on Twitter, but we are determined, ladies and gentlemen, to stay in the public square. So we're going to keep pounding away on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. We're not abandoning that to the left. Now, we're being crushed down by our algorithm, the most powerful man out there. So that's why I need you to kind of search for us and share it far and wide. But we're on multiple platforms, including like Rumble and BitChute, and we're going to expand. We're building a completely new platform behind the scenes here to not only help with our show, but to help with other shows. And we've got some impressive people coming online here that I can't reveal just yet, but in probably June of this year, in another few weeks, we'll be able to show you a lineup that'll just blow your socks off. But that's what we're doing here. But stick with us, help us stay in the public square. But the thing about Newt Gingrich, man, I really like is he is right to the point. And as Billy Bob says, I could probably learn a few things from him. In recent weeks, Trump sat down with the former House Speaker as well as his former Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, and Senator Lindsey Graham, Republican of South Carolina, at his private Mar-a-Lago club. Not a bad gig to go down there and visit with the Trumps, man. I'd love to do that. Club to begin crafting with the document, according to a source familiar with the meeting. Of course, you know, Donald Trump now is a citizen of Florida, man. You know, as I say all the time, American by birth, Floridian by the grace of God, and Donald Trump seems to agree with me. But let me ask you, just kind of out there, what is your feeling about Lindsey Graham? I told you about Newt Graham and Mark Meadows. I have a great deal of respect for him. But Lindsey Graham, I don't know. You know, maybe you could help me with this, but he's a mixed bag, to be sure. I mean, Lindsey Graham literally puts his finger to the wind or something like that and tries to determine which way he's going. Now, he's a pretty dadgum good spokesman for whatever he believes in. So maybe if the wind is blowing the MAGA way, America first, you know, Lindsey Graham will actually be a solid partner. But I'll be honest with you, I don't trust Lindsey Graham. He is a swamp rat. Now, he's one of our swamp rats, but he is a swamp rat nonetheless. I mean, how many times has he said, we're going to investigate this and we're going to investigate that? And what comes of it? Squadoosh. Because the rats don't like to convict the rats. That's just my feeling. The group is still just beginning to hammer out the details of what a Trumpified, I like that term, Trumpified contract might look like. But it's also likely to take an America First policy approach on everything from trade to immigration. The source described it as a policy priority for 2022 and beyond. Now, they talk about, and I'm not going to get too deep into it, that Trump wasn't that big on these doctrines. I don't know. I mean, he certainly made a great list of Supreme Court justices that carried through on that. Now, whether they actually carried through is a whole nother story for another time. But America First, to me, who opposes that? Who would oppose America First? Well, the left opposes America First all the time. Obama literally codified it, so to speak. It certainly became a part of his policy in the White House, you may remember, specifically with Libya, but you could put it across the board. Remember when they came out with this term that we're going to lead from behind? Do you ever remember an American president saying that before or even really since? Although I don't know where Biden's leading, period. Because Biden's agenda, I haven't said this in a while, but if I say it, it bears repeating. Biden doesn't even have an agenda. Now, I'm not saying, what's coming out of the White House is god awful. But Biden's agenda's already been completed. He became president. That's all he's ever wanted to be, was president, right? He's been running for president for like 50 years. And he finally got there, God help us. But his agenda was just to get there. It's the Obama third term, in my opinion, and keep that in mind about we are leading from behind. How did that work out for Libya, by the way? I mean, it literally went for, and I'm not saying Libya was all that in a bag of chips, but it's certainly a hellhole now and a hotbed for terrorism, by the way, that we rarely talk about, but that's Obama. But see, Obama, he never really was the leader of the free world. And even Joe Biden doesn't want to be that. And Obama, in his last speech to the UN, and he talked about how the United States doesn't necessarily need to lead the way and all that. Go back and look at it. It's pretty much a speech of appeasement. But Obama, he didn't see himself this is just my opinion, but it's an opinionated fact nonetheless, that Obama didn't see himself as a leader of the free world. He kind of just saw himself and the United States as a voice in a chorus. And how is that working out on the world stage since we've kind of become that way, and since certainly Donald Trump left office? In construction talking about this contract with America, reformulated the America First, basically. Its construction has been teased and talked about for weeks, but the fact that the principals are beginning to put it together underscores Trump's continued interest in trying to shape the Republican Party. It needs some shaping. Beyond issuing endorsements, holding rallies, and raking in fundraising dollars ahead of the midterm elections, it also suggests that Trump still feels the need to move the party in his direction, at least intellectually. And hey, I'm with that 100%. Whether Donald Trump runs again is a whole nother story. Because I've told you before, and I at first I didn't think he was going to. Now I'd say it's about 50-50. But Donald Trump certainly has the right to just ride off into the sunset and enjoy his businesses, his family, his wealth, his life, the American dream. I mean, he's living it, right? So he certainly has every right to do that. I don't think he's going to. I think it's pretty obvious that he's going to stay plugged in. Now, whether or not that means he's going to run for president, I don't know. But the party, absolutely, the Republican Party, needs to move in the direction of America First, the MAGA agenda. And here's something, let me take a sip before I say this, because some of y'all aren't going to like this. But hear me out. Don't just jump to conclusions till you hear me out. We need to put the 2020 election behind us. We really do. Now, I'm not saying, we don't say the F word here. I'm not saying there, we say mod. I'm not saying there wasn't voter mod. I'm not saying that, Biden clearly, he did get the most ballots. Whether he got the most actual legal votes is another story. So I'm not downplaying any of that. We don't say much. We say something that rhymes with something else. I'm not saying that there wasn't some squealing going on, like stop the squeal. I'm not saying any of that. But as far as winning, because that's what we want to do. Remember, President Trump talked about winning, winning, winning. And all that really matters right now is stopping. And my one political goal, let me just state, I hadn't said it in a little while, but my only political goal is to stop the progressive takeover of this country by any means necessary. Stop the progressive takeover of this country. That is my political goal. I don't care if you're running for the outhouse, the White House, Park Avenue, Park Bench, you're appointed, whatever. It's probably not fair, but it's the reality I'm living in. I'm going to judge you, whether, like I say, city commissioner all the way up to U.S. senator. I'm going to judge you based on how you're going to help me stop the progressive takeover of this country. So I say that in explanation of putting the election behind us, because what we got to focus on is winning the 2022 midterms, retaking both the House and the Senate, and obviously getting that Yahoo out of the White House come 2024, whoever is at the top of the ticket. So I'm not saying that we need to forget, because what is those old, heck no, there ain't no forgetting. I'm not saying you should forget it. And I do believe that we need to revisit the 2020 election in this sense, to learn from any mistakes we made, correct the illegal stuff that happened at the state level. I'm 100% down with that. But continuing to just hammer on it really doesn't serve the purpose of stopping the progressive takeover. So when I say put the election behind us, I'm not saying don't continue to investigate. I'm saying we need a clear message to the American people that this is what us constitutionalists believe need to happen. That's where I see the strength of this. Gingrich outlined a list of potential priorities. Gingrich said, talking about this new contract, it should be positive. Absolutely. Positive message is the best thing. And we have so many positive things to talk about, and he talks about it here. School choice, teaching American history for real, abolishing the 1619 Project, which is basically that critical race deal, eliminating critical race theory. He talks about Texas legislatures doing it. Of course, we talked about Florida leading the way on this as well. As I say, American by birth, Floridian by the grace of God. So the action is at the state levels, and I really appreciate that, because the federal side is just screwed for us right now. Trump's advisors say he is invested in the Republican Party's success in the next midterm elections. Amen. Keep going, President Trump. Republicans will need to pick up at least 5 seats in the House and 1 Senate seat to flip power in those respective chambers. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is very, very doable. I'm not just one of these people that thinks it's automatically going to happen. Now, this, if you haven't seen this, I put this up quite a few times, and thank you, Billy Bob, for putting that up there. This is a county-by-county map of the United States in the 2020 election. The gray area are places where Donald Trump won. The blue areas are where Joe Biden at least got the most ballots, however you want to look at it, in a county-by-county race. It's not even close when you look at that. So a lot of America supports Donald Trump, and that's why they want this January 6th commission and all that, because they want to try to punish us for supporting Donald Trump. But here, I say this half jokingly, I've said it before, but it actually is true. The Speaker of the House does not have to be an elected member of that House. So if we take back the House of Representatives, they could elect Donald Trump to be Speaker, impeach both Biden and Harris, or Harris and Biden, because they claim they're the same thing, and, then elect Donald Trump he'd be the next president, right? Third in line. So, hey, you never know. But let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, and I've said this before, but it may disturb you again. But once again, hear me out what I'm having to say. The MAGA movement, the America First movement, is bigger than Donald Trump. It's bigger than one man. Now, that's not to take anything away from President Trump at all. And it's not alluding to whether or not he should run or not. But if you think about it this way, if the America First movement, the MAGA agenda, was dependent only on one man, as great as that man is, was, and still is, it was doomed to failure from the very beginning. Because I always go back to something that Charles de Gaulle, the famous general and president of France, said when he was going to retire after World War II. He served for a while as president to kind of get France back together. And they literally asked him on his way out, how is France going to survive without you? And he said one of the things that we really ought to keep in mind as human beings in general. He says the graveyard is full of indispensable men. And he's so right, and women too, of course. He's so right about that. You know, so many, if we're dependent on one person, then we're doomed. And Donald Trump spoke about this continuously, that the movement, he was ahead of the movement, and he also said that the powers that be, the swamp rats, really were scared of you, the American people that put him in there. That's why they're having this January 6th. Do you really think they care about how the January 6th commission, if it happens? And 35 Republicans, by the way, don't forget that, voted for it. Please vote your conscience out there, Republicans, so we can identify you and get rid of you if we need to. But we need to get back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Constitution. That's what we've got to get back to. And I love this. I've been posting it a lot lately. It's pretty funny, but it's true, right? It's freedom. But I want to play you a little snippet from Joe Biden at his, quote, I guess you'd call it State of the Union address a while back. And this is one of the scarier things. There's a couple things he said, like one of them was that, you know, no amendment is absolute. We'll play that another time. We played it before. But this is one of the scariest things I've heard a president say pretty much in my lifetime, but it is actually the way the progressive movement believes, and they view the Constitution, really they view it as an impediment to what they want to do. But this is why I say my ultimate goal is to stop the progressive takeover of this nation. And I'm hoping this new contract with America, this America First version of it, will help me and do that, because God help us if we let these people like this stay in power. Check it out.
The Constitution opens with the words, as trite as it sounds, we the people. Well, it's time to remember that we the people are the government. You and I.
God. If you really understand what he's saying there, ladies and gentlemen, we the people is the government. That's the absolute polar opposite of what the Constitution and our founding principles and documents and our founding fathers believed in. The people is the American people, and the government is given permission through the Constitution to govern those rugged individualists. The Constitution is not to empower government like Biden is basically saying in that video. The Constitution is to protect the American people, the rugged individuals, from the overreach, which is what we're seeing right now, of a bloated federal government. So, we got to get back to the Constitution and the founding principles of this nation somehow, some way. And one way we got to do it, and I'm hoping that this contract with America will help with this, we got to educate ourselves and others. We got to motivate ourselves and others. And we got to activate ourselves and others. And when the chance comes, like those 35 Republicans that voted for the January 6th deal, we need to eliminate them. By that, I mean vote them out of office. And I'm hoping that this contract with America actually gives us something to focus on, America first. Now, I want to play something here. I normally don't play, and we're going to basically conclude this segment with this. I normally don't play more than about a minute or 2 minutes maximum video, but I'm getting ready to play you a 4-minute video. It is President Trump's. It's a compilation of his inauguration speech. And the people who put this together did a great job. I was actually at that speech, spent my honeymoon at the inauguration speech, which kind of tells you a lot about me and my wife, right? It was her idea, and it was a great one. But this speech, essentially, this compilation of his speech, this edited version, essentially to me lays out an America First agenda. And you could just play this and wouldn't even have to have a doctrine. But check it out. It's about 4 minutes long.
A small group in our nation's capital has reaped the rewards of government while the people have borne the cost. Washington flourished, but the people did not share in its wealth. January 20th, 2017 will be remembered as the day the people became the rulers of this nation again. Americans want great schools for their children, safe neighborhoods for their families, and good jobs for themselves. These are just and reasonable demands of righteous people and a righteous public. But for too many of our citizens, a different reality exists. Mothers and children trapped in poverty in our inner cities, rusted out factories scattered like tombstones across the landscape of our nation, an education system flush with cash, but which leaves our young and beautiful students deprived of all knowledge. And the crime, and the gangs, and the drugs that have stolen too many lives and robbed our country of so much unrealized potential. This American carnage stops right here and stops right now. From this day forward, a new vision will govern our land. From this day forward, it's going to be only America first. America first. Every decision on trade, on taxes, on immigration, on foreign affairs will be made to benefit American workers and American families. We must protect our borders from the ravages of other countries making our products, stealing our companies, and destroying our jobs. We will reinforce old alliances and form new ones and unite the civilized world against radical Islamic terrorism, which we will eradicate completely from the face of the earth. There should be no fear. We are protected, and we will always be protected. We will be protected by the great men and women of our military and law enforcement. And most importantly, we will be protected by God. That whether we are black or brown or white, we all bleed the same red blood of patriots. We all enjoy the same glorious freedoms, and we all salute the same great American flag. Together, we will make America strong again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And yes, together, we will make America great again. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you.
I was so privileged to be out there, one of those people in the crowd out there, my wife and I could tell you when he was saying that, man, it was bringing tears to my eyes. It kind of does now. And the answer to the question, ladies and gentlemen, do we miss President Trump? Amen. I miss President Trump. But there, ladies and gentlemen, I don't care who runs for president in 2024 on the Republican ticket. That is the message that we need right there. Of course, Donald Trump delivers it better than anybody. But we need, if this contract with America, I'm 100% in favor of it. We need to be looking forward, not backward. And we need to look at what Donald Trump said, because I still think everything he said there is things he addressed, but still there is work to be done. Thank you, President Trump. I think I'll post that that speech or that compilation of it on my Facebook site over the weekend, because leading into Memorial Day weekend, man, we need to hear that more than ever. But thank you, President Trump. I hope people appreciate that video. All right, let's move on to our next story here. This comes to you from Breitbart. And it is Ocasio-Cortez and a great Floridian taking on her in this situation. Green Beret congressman sets record straight after AOC claims lawmakers effectively served in war. Now, she is really looking like a jackass in this. So, maybe that's over the top, but to me, Ocasio-Cortez, she made some jackass remarks, and she's made quite a few of them over her brief career, her all too long career at this time, but none worse than basically saying she has the same credentials as a combat veteran, which is basically what she said. Florida Representative Mike Waltz, Republican of Florida, the first Green Beret to serve in Congress, that says a lot about Congress too, right? Set the record straight after far-left Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez concluded that members of Congress effectively served in war due to their scare during the January 6th riot. Now, I'm not downplaying the riot, whatever you want to call it. They call it the insurrection, all that stuff. But Mr. Waltz is absolutely correct when he calls her out on this, because nothing that any of the congressmen and women went through up there in the Capitol even remotely compares to what the average soldier goes through, let alone this highly decorated officer, Congressman Waltz. The Florida Republican and combat decorated veteran addressed Ocasio-Cortez comparison, deeming it both sad and ignorant. And I would say he's absolutely right. I would add it's stupid too. The difference, by the way, between ignorance, because I battle ignorance and apathy daily, right? The difference, ignorance just means you don't know something. There's no shame in being ignorant. I'll give you a quick example, the best example I can think of. If you don't know how to read, you're ignorant. You just don't know how to read. But if you don't care, if you don't know how to read and you don't care, then you're stupid. And here's your sign. But when she says something out of ignorance, if she truly believes that her experience on the Capitol compares to remotely even the average soldier, let alone a Green Beret like Mr. Waltz here, then she is absolutely stupid, and I think that's probably true. And went on and adding this is what that Mr. Waltz said, adding a dose of reality to her false equivalency by pointing out that the New York Democrat hasn't lost fellow soldiers on the battlefield or seen friends permanently disfigured by Taliban attacks. There is a difference between this guy, this is when Mr. Waltz was a commander in the Green Beret, what he's showing, and look at Ocasio-Cortez, her shedding. Those are her tears during the Trump administration when she was down at the border saying women were drinking out of toilets and everything. And she's going, At the same time, where's she been during the border crisis now? And yes, we're in a crisis. Crickets, man. She is nowhere to be found. And the conditions, and there's so much evidence of this, the conditions that the illegal immigrants are going through under Biden is much worse, much, much worse, and of course what the American people are going through, than anything that happened during the Trump administration. But where's Ocasio-Cortez? I guess maybe she's on a shopping spree with Kamala Harris, because both of them are like absent, right? But Waltz said Tuesday, he said, January 6th was a terrible day for sure, and those involved will be brought to justice, but this is a sad and ignorant comparison to make, and a disservice to those who actually served. Amen, sir, amen. He went on to say, Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, doesn't know what it's like to come under attack by machine gun fire, mortars, or RPGs. She hasn't seen the horror of a roadside IED explosion by bystanders and children. But she has actually had to face Marjorie Taylor Greene in the halls. You know, did you see where she wants a restraining order now on Marjorie Taylor Greene from the halls of Congress? So this combat veteran, Ocasio-Cortez, is afraid to face criticism from Marjorie Taylor Greene, man. I mean, it just, wow. I'll tell you a really quick story. I think I've told this before, but I have a friend of mine, one of my best friends, we've known each other for many, many years. He had a son that became a Marine, volunteered, and was gung-ho about it, and I applauded him for it, and went over and served in Iraq. Well, he was at a situation where they had these checkpoints, and people were getting blown up by these bombs and cars and IEDs or whatever they call them. And he was at this checkpoint. Now, this guy, he's a young guy, obviously, and he'd never, he lacked a lot of world experience until obviously he went into the Marine Corps. Well, this car was approaching. It turned out with like five guys in it, and they were speeding and they would not stop. They went through a couple of areas where they were supposed to stop, and he had to fire into the automobile. Well, when he did, I don't know if his fire caused it or they did detonate. They had a bomb in there and it blew the vehicle to smithereens. He was the first person on the scene, and there were literally, and it's graphic detail here, literally body parts dripping from the roof of the car. He did his duty. Everything he did was right. The young man has never been the same since then. I haven't talked to him in a while, but he had to go through all kind of, Ocasio-Cortez says she's in therapy behind the January 6th attack. And I'm not denying she might need it. She certainly needs some help somewhere. But to compare her experience with like this young man's experience, let alone Green Beret Commander Waltz, is just sad, man. It's just no. But Waltz went on to say talking about AOC, she hasn't lost fellow soldiers on the battlefield or seen friends permanently disfigured by Taliban attacks. Well, few of us have. It's one thing to play a War Games video. It's another to live it. And I want to say something else I haven't said in a while, but of course I say it bears repeating. And it just kind of pops in my head every time I'm talking about our soldiers. We're getting ready to have Memorial Day weekend. Let me just say this, ladies and gentlemen. No American soldier ever dies in vain. I hear that crap all the time. I'm going to say it again. No American soldier ever dies in vain. Now, politicians quite often on both sides of the aisle put them in situations they shouldn't be in. But American soldiers die doing their duty, following orders, and the main thing is protecting the person next to them, their comrades in arms. That's why soldiers die. It's never in vain to die from that. Do we put them, as an American people, electing yahoos up there like Biden to put them in places they shouldn't be? Absolutely. But I just don't want to hear it unless it comes from a soldier himself. I don't want to ever hear that all the time. And Mr. Waltz went on to say, don't use false equivalencies to make a point, especially as it relates to war. And he's absolutely right about that. We often do that. We're all somewhat guilty of that. Even sports, we're like warriors and all that. Nothing compares to what soldiers go through in combat. So we definitely overuse that. That's why I try to tell you all the time, ladies and gentlemen, we must man the political ramparts. We have got to educate ourselves and others, motivate ourselves and others, and activate ourselves, which do something in others, and eliminate some of these yahoos by voting them out. We have to man the political ramparts, because if we don't, we're either going to lose this country or we're going to have to man the real ramparts again, like people like Commander Waltz have manned. And we don't need to do that. They're doing it, and I appreciate it. But we don't need to do that, because the price for our freedom, even though it is continuous, has already been paid, and it would be a shame to lose it. And that's what's at stake here. But Waltz served across the globe as a decorated, listen to this, Waltz served across the globe as a decorated Special Forces officer with multiple combat tours in Afghanistan, the Middle East, and Africa, and has been awarded four Bronze Stars and 2 with Valor. All I can say about that is thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I try to thank our veterans when I see them wearing their hats and things every chance I get. Every chance I get. And I thank our police officers and everything else, our first responders, but especially our soldiers, because we need to remember their sacrifices, ladies and gentlemen. We need to remember their sacrifice, especially when we're going into Memorial Weekend. Absolutely enjoy yourself. Enjoy yourself immensely. But at some moment, even if it's only 30 seconds in your head, but I would say share it with your family, think about the people who have paid the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom. I think about it all the time when I'm out there fishing. I thank veterans, and I'm serious about it. I say, man, I thank you, because I wouldn't even be able to be fishing if it wasn't for you. And I'm going to play a video here. And I want to tell you up front that I'm not denigrating this young lady for doing this. But I want to play it, and then we'll come back and make a point. Check it out. I think you get the picture. I'm not putting her down. That's Ocasio-Cortez dancing. I'm 100% in favor of that. Man, I knew what it was like. I feel the same way on a daily basis. I can't quite move, like I used to move, because my old legs and stuff like that have got 60 years on them. But I know what it's like to be young and free and just celebrating life and just having a good old time. And I'm still having a good old time in my own way. All I would say to Ocasio-Cortez is, yes, shake it, baby. Dance, enjoy yourself. I don't agree with you politically, but enjoy your life as an American citizen. It is your birthright. It is absolutely her birthright. No question about it. I'm just, as it is all of ours, life, liberty, and the pursuit, not the guarantee of happiness. It's our birthright. But the sacrifices have been made by people who gave the ultimate price, certainly our men and women who have been injured and all of that, and just service in general. But think about that, because to me, the best way to celebrate our great American experiment, and there's no guarantee, I call it an experiment because there's no guarantee that it will last, but it will only last if we continue to have patriots like Congressman Waltz, Green Beret commander, stand up for us. So shake it, baby. Shake it. Shake your groove thing. Enjoy your weekend coming up. Enjoy your life on a daily basis. But remember that the price of freedom has never, ever been free. Never, ever. Not only in America, but in human history, it has never been just blanketly bestowed upon you. And I could go on and all that. But basically, we're the land of the free because of the brave. That's the bottom line. All right, we only got a couple minutes left, but just enough time to get into this last story, man. I don't know if you know Senator John Kennedy. He's frequently on Fox, on both Tucker Carlson and even more so, I think, on Sean Hannity. But he's on both of them. He is comical. I mean, he's a great senator from Louisiana, and I love Louisiana. Thank you for producing this guy. This is from the Washington Examiner. Senator John Kennedy in an NRA video. Love is the answer, but you ought to own a handgun just in case. He's right. Republican Senator John Kennedy, and there he is, and he always has a smile on his face for the most part. Republican Senator John Kennedy appeared in a video posted by the NRA stressing the importance of love, but also the importance of being armed just in case. I love that. Yeah, it's just in case. I believe that love is the answer. It kind of reminds me, it reminds me of something my dad used to say about like locking the gate at the farm and all. He'd be locking the gate and locking your door. He said, locks don't keep criminals, obviously, from getting in. They help honest people stay honest. And, what was that saying that God may have created all men equal, but something about Smith and Wesson guaranteed it or something like that. I'm botching it. But this is what Mr. Kennedy said. He said, I believe that love is the answer, but you ought to own a handgun just in case. The Louisiana Republican has been a staunch supporter of gun rights, the Second Amendment, and earlier this year he rejected calls for more gun control and instead said the country needs more he probably said idiot control. He's absolutely right. That we don't need more gun control. We need to do our best to make sure idiots don't have access to them. And of course, Ocasio-Cortez would say, well, that means all Trump supporters. No, that means you are an idiot. These killings, he said, were terrible. He's talking about this Boulder, Colorado one specifically. He said they were horrible, Kennedy said, in response to a mass shooting in Boulder, Colorado that left 10 people dead. He said, I'm reminded, though, that, America is a big country. We're free, and one of the prices we pay for that freedom is that you're always going to have some people who abuse it. Freedom is a risk. God almighty, I love saying that because it applies to so much. It applies to everything we've gone through with all this COVID and everything. You've heard me say this if you're before, but if you're new to the show, you really need to hear this. It's one of these points in the show where I occasionally say, if you don't get anything else out of it, get this. Lean in, snowflakes. It's never been safe to leave the cave. Ever. It's never been safe to leave the cave. And if you depend on the experts to tell you when it's safe to go outside, you never will. We never would have left the cave. Now, I'm not saying don't listen to them, but look at Dr. Fauci. If people like him had their way, we would be locked down forever. We'd never be free. So experts are not the ones that gave us our freedom. Our freedom was given to us, I think, divinely inspired through the founding fathers by our Creator. President Trump addressed that in his speech we played a little while ago. I would encourage you to share that speech. I'll put it up so you can share it with others. But, ladies and gentlemen, it's been paid by our founding fathers, our men and women in uniform who have sacrificed, fought, lived, died, everything for freedom. It's never been free, and it's always been a risk. He says freedom, Mr. Kennedy says freedom is a risk, and he is so right about that. Senator Kennedy went on to say, what we have to get, and he's talking about gun control basically here, what we have got to concentrate on is how to control that risk. You have to assess your own risk and try to, control it. You're not going to stop the killings until you stop the killers. He's absolutely right. Do you really, and I talked about this yesterday, do you really believe these killers, these mass shooters, people who commit crimes in general, check with what the state legislatures do? Do you really think they pull out the laws of their state, the federal government, and say, let me see if going down here and shooting somebody randomly is illegal or not? They don't care. I mean, even yesterday at the place where they memorialized Floyd there, where he was, where the knee was put on his neck, they have kind of a little square there now. They were reporting out there, and like 40 shots were fired there at the place, I guess memorializing Mr. Floyd. So memorializing with a bunch of bullets. Anyway, it's never been safe to leave the cave. You got to assess your own risk. He said, you're not going to stop killing, you stop the killers, but you don't stop. I love this analogy by Mr. Kennedy. He said, you don't stop drunk drivers by getting rid of all sober drivers. In fact, it's sober drivers that might report drunk drivers, right? People who have guns that are law-abiding citizens can defend themselves and others. He said, which is what many of my Democratic friends want to do with respect to the Second Amendment. Well, like I have told you many, many times, not only is the Second Amendment our God-given right, protected, not bestowed upon, but protected by the U.S. Constitution, but I would take it a step further. I think having the Second Amendment is actually a human right, beyond just the Constitution. I'm so grateful we have it in our country because there's a lot of parts of the world that don't have that right. But I would say that people have the absolute right to defend themselves, their family, and their property from people who would take it from them. I absolutely believe that 100%. I hope you've enjoyed the show as much as I've enjoyed bringing it to you. Please go directly to all of our social media sites and share them with others. We appreciate that. Check out our sponsors listed above the show, no matter when or where you're watching them. Patronize them. We're getting ready to have some more coming online very, very shortly. I'll pray for your family. You pray for mine. Man, we better pray for this nation because she deserves it, without a doubt, from the sacrifices that have been made, and she needs it now more than ever. But above all else, like I say each and every day, from my heart, from my family to yours, have a blessed day.